Today on the Topping Show, Donald Trump says he'd arrest prospective New York City Mayor Zohran if he blocks ICE from detaining illegals in New York City. You also have a stark contrast of those who are proud to be American due to a recent Gallup poll. Jaguar sales climbed by 98%. Elizabeth Warren is irate that illegals might not get free health care. Kia had their best sales month in history. And BMW recalls some of their EVs because they might, just shut down. All of that and much more on the Topping Show. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of the Topping Show is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency in IT security. Heck, I see their founder at least twice a day, guys. He's quite handsome and brilliant. Easy me to see, that's a joke. If you're an IT leader or a business owner, reach out to the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, still giving away a free Flamethrower with every IT purchase with Picatinny rail adapter, so you can mount it to any standard AR-15 like all awesome accessories can be. Go to toppingtechnologies.com and click the Flamethrower button to learn more and see me shooting a flamethrower. And lastly, try to get to 6,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you can click that button and tell your friends, I would greatly appreciate it. Now, going over to the business part of the podcast, you have Kia having their best sales month in history. Now, this is brought to us thanks to Motor1.com, specifically Jeff Perez, who's the writer over there. And they say, quote, Kia just had its best 6 month of sales in history, a milestone. Kia now nearly sold 500,000 cars through June. There you can see one of those Kia cars right there. And they say, quote, for all the doom and gloom surrounding the new car market, some companies are thriving. Kia, for example, just reported its best first half of sales in company history. Through June, Kia nearly sold 1,000,000 cars in the U.S., or 500,000 cars in the U.S., 416,511 units to be exact. That number represents an increase of 8% over the previous year. It marks the highest figure in the company's 32 years of sales in the United States. By comparison, Kia sold just 486,460 vehicles in June 2024. They say that Kia had two top sellers in June, the Sportage SUV and the K4 sedan. The company sold 12,630 examples of the Sportage and 11,634 examples of the K4. And the Telluride coming in at third at 9,239 units, followed by the Sorento with 7,050 units. Which, I was going to say, here you can pull up that sales chart. And geez Louise, yeah, the Kia Sportage, geez Louise, they sold 87,172 Kia Sportage vehicles. Jesus. I cannot imagine. I mean, granted, you know me, I want a car with a stick shift and manual transmission, ideally 2 doors. Can't imagine buying one of these, but geez Louise, people are buying them up in droves. They say the Kia K5 saw the biggest sales jump year over year. The midsize sedan improved from 3,771 units last June to 5,613 units this June. An impressive 170% increase. Here you can actually scroll down so you see some of these vehicles, which, I certainly don't find them attractive, but some people still, obviously, people are buying them. Now, you know that 4 models had their best first half sales ever. The Carnival improved by 57%. The Telluride jumped by 15%. The Sportage increased by 9%. The K4 was up 7%. Hybrid sales boomed 70%, geez Louise, year over year. For those who can't calculate the long-term ownership of a hybrid because of the depreciating battery, I inserted that part. While sedan sales jumped by 29%. All told, Kia sold 63,849 vehicles in June, which actually represents a slight decrease from the last year. Kia sold 65,929 cars in the first 6 months of 2024. Now, President and CEO of North America, Kia, Mr. Sean Woon, says, quote, in the face of uncertain market conditions, Kia delivered a record-breaking first-half sales performance, a milestone made possible by the continued interest from consumers in our well-defined, technologically advanced lineup. We expect this positive sales trajectory to continue in the second half for 2025. Kia will remain agile in our response to changing market conditions and is steadfast in our commitment to delivering products and services that meet the expectations of U.S. consumers, unquote. Now, they did note that, can Kia maintain the sales success? That's what they're asking Motor1. They say that, quote, Kia hopes to keep the sales momentum going in the second half of the year with new models introducing the K4 hatchback and E4 Plus. Plus, the company just recently announced updates to its perennial bestsellers for 2026, with the same models actually getting cheaper in the new year. The EV9 GT gets a $2,000 price cut for 2026, while the compact Kia Seltos sees its base price drop by $1,000. The Carnival remains the cheapest minivan on sale in the U.S., and the Sportage still comes in at under $30,000 to start. So I was really astonished how terms of improving as a company in the past 10, 20 years, I would say that Hyundai Kia is probably the best company, bar none. I mean, it used to be such a rudimentary, low quality vehicle that Jay Leno would historically make jokes on it on late night. He would actually say it was more reliable to use a bobsled just going down the hill as opposed to getting a Kia or a Hyundai. And they were such a cheap car back in the day. They'd have promos like buy two, get one free. And like college kids would go out and buy cars, which also shows how cheap cars were back in the day. But geez Louise, they were definitely known as a entry level price point only. They weren't known for liability. But again, thanks to German engineering, I'm only partially kidding, since German executives left Volkswagen to join Hyundai Kia decades ago and kind of bring the company into the 21st century, this become leaps and bounds better than the competition. And I mean, improving over their previous vehicles year over year. They are the best company when it comes to the powertrain warranty. Is 10-year, 10-year, 100,000 mile warranty for the powertrain, which was revolutionary when they introduced that. And they introduced that warranty, like, I want to say 15 years ago. That was back when I was in the automotive community. And that got a lot of people to take a look at that company for the first time. And they stood behind that warranty even when they had some issues. And that really put them on the map. And again, hindsight's 2020, not financial advice, but their stock's been doing pretty well. It's doing a lot better than a couple S&P 500 companies in the short term. But I mean, short term, it's been going up like a rocket. And they're making huge investments in hybrids and EVs, which, although I'm not a fan of, because I want my car to last, quarter of a century or longer, as opposed to, disposable EV. But again, there's some people who want the hybrids, especially, they're selling them left or right. And Hyundai Kia are investing in their own infrastructure, rather more accurately, making their own batteries and technologies for that as well. And even producing so many that they're having OEM contracts with other competitors and selling components to them as well. Thereby, all the revenue streams help them in that regard as well. It's really impressive to see Kia and Hyundai come so long. It's pretty darn nice. So it'll be interesting to see, even in the face of 7% interest rates, a rough economy, people are still buying cars, which I'm flabbergasted that they'll do that. But they're also willing to pay for these new cars. It's pretty impressive, despite other companies that are decreasing their sales, other companies are struggling. Kia had the best first half of the year sales ever. So very impressed. I mean, probably one of the best automotive companies or automotive comebacks ever. And I'm not too surprised. I do wonder. I mean, historically speaking, Q3 and Q4, fiscal Q3 and Q4, or also calendar year Q3 and Q4, it's some of the best times for a lot of business to consumer business models as well as business to business models. I wouldn't be surprised if they maintain this momentum and break another record for the second half of the year. I can't but think, and again, I'm not a gambling man, but if I were, I would say the odds of them doing even better second half of the year, I would say the odds are quite good. But as always, let me know in the comments, because I'd be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Going over to the Cultural Pod podcast, you have a Gallup poll showing that the amount of Americans proud to be American, well, is a stark contrast over the past couple years between Democrats and Republicans. Now, this is brought to us thanks to End Wokeness, in which he says, quote, a Gallup poll percentage of people who say that they are extremely or very proud to be an American. In 2021, 87% of Democrats, again, 87% of Democrats said yes, and 90% of Republicans said yes. Again, that was 2001. Democrats said 87, Republicans said 90. In 2025, 36% of Democrats said yes, and 92% of Republicans said yes. So Democrats, 51% of Democrat support saying they're proud to be American, gone. Which, culturally speaking, that makes sense. When you look at all their rhetoric and all their policies, Democrat perspective, a lot of them are quite the antithesis of our founding fathers. A lot of them constantly complain about the United States, and they want to enact policies that are, well, I would argue quite heinous and bad for the economy and culture. But pretty much the antithesis of, again, everything our country stands for. We want to increase massive social programs. We want to basically get rid of religion. We want to ban guns. And a lot of them constantly talk about how evil America is, how bad our country is. And I'm actually shocked that Republicans actually did increase by 2%. Again, 90 in 2001, that's a lot of folks. And they even went up from that. And again, it also makes sense. Democrats foolishly abandoned the United States flag, saying, a couple years ago, they started to say it was actually inherently evil and bad. So now when you see an American flag, you kind of know who you vote for, because the whole side of political aisle has ostracized themselves from that flag and said it's so bad. Now, that being said, Democrats love flags, just, very colorful ones, not the United States flag. And it makes sense. A lot of them just hate our country and everything it stands for, although they still continue to live here. And this went pretty viral, got 2.5 million views and 53,000 likes. Now, one of the first responses comes to us thanks to the Cartier family saying, quote, Who's actually shocked by this? Currently, Democrats are conditioned to hate America, getting 4.4 thousand likes, which, again, that's also the vernacular. I mean, look at Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, AOC. I mean, they are proud socialists who hate the United States. It's hilarious. Well, obviously, they're limo liberals and hypocrites. Most hilarious thing Bernie Sanders has done this year is complain about, the environment and, private jets and all those, fancy, expensive things. And he himself spent $250,000 on private jets. And he was on TV, said he does not, I do not apologize for using private jets. It's the only way to get from point A to point B. Which, spoiler, there are many planes that go from point A to point B. And even if you rent a private plane, you can get ones that are quote unquote greener for the environment based on his metrics of green with carbon emissions. You can actually get greener options than what he chose. But of course, he chose a very large private jet plane because he's a hypocrite and also supported by Big Pharma. Now, Stone says, quote, terrible statistics, but further proof that Democrats hate America, the numbers don't lie. And 306 likes. Americano says, quote, if you deport the 64% of Democrats that are not proud to be an American, most of our problems would go away. Getting 1.4 thousand likes, which, yeah, well, not most, a lot of the problems go away, yeah. Mays says, quote, that 60 or 36, sorry, dyslexia probably. I was about to say that 63, that 36% seems very high, getting 598 likes. Captain Dreamer says, quote, we have a party of Americans that, and then we have the party of anti-American party, getting 637 likes. Wisdom Crusader has the meme of Trump saying, quote, this is why, or sorry, shit like this is why I won, getting 13 likes. Pete Cochran says, quote, Democrats now hate America more than China, North Korea, and Russia, getting 51 likes. Yeah. Red Pill Mom says, quote, Democrats have become hateful, miserable people, getting 38, so I get 39 likes. What do you mean? No. Next thing she's going to say that in terms of percentages of who has the most mental health disorders, it's going to be young liberal white women. Oh, wait, that is actually a fact with multiple studies showing that. And despite them buying more and more cats, it doesn't seem to help. You also have, scrolling down more and more, Native Patriot says, quote, guess which way I lean? And he's got American flag branded sweatpants. He's got American flag. He's got the Pocahontas hairdress. He's got a good old AR-15 with a standard 30-round capacity magazine. And 314, they get 315 likes. You also have Car Dealership Guy, A+ Marketing, know exactly what he does for a living. Now he says, quote, instead of blaming Democrats, we should be asking a better question. What changed in the system that let things get this bad? And more importantly, how do we fix this so our grandchildren inherit something better? It's very concerning. Getting 105, 106 likes. Let's see. The first response is from P, saying, quote, the answer is our education system, and the answer to what happened is communist. Getting 11 likes. Yep. Yeah, public schools, I would argue, one of the worst places on the planet. Not only are they not safe for kids, but they don't really teach mathematics or core school materials. They usually have teachers that are proudly coming out to the children and indoctrinating them with Marxist ideas and having lots of flags in those classrooms, but not American flags in the classrooms. Going back to the main comment section, you have Yango G's Retees saying, quote, this is what happens when Trump governs only as, sorry, wait, what is this? Doesn't sound grammatically correct. Nevertheless, this is what happens is when Trump governs only for a small segment of America and neglects the rest, getting 133 likes, which, I mean, he won the popular vote, so I'm not sure what this person is saying. Not Sherry responds saying, quote, yeah, I'm sure you know all about Trump's governance from your close-up bird's eye vantage point in effing Madrid, getting 98. So I get 99 likes. That's hilarious. Yango says, look like I struck a nerve with MAGA. Guess that means I was right, getting 18 likes. Relish says, N-word, isn't that what Biden did? Getting 62 likes. Yeah, I'd argue, yeah. Going back to the main comment section. Mark Payne says, quote, ask the Democrats what country they love. Getting 10 likes. Well, Ukraine. The Ukrainian flag is actually the flag that Democrats usually represent. Look at their Facebook profiles, the politicians in D.C. Yeah, pretty crazy. Even back in the 80s and 90s, most politicians in the United States, left and right, everyone, it's kind of cliche, but they would always have the American flag on their lapel pin. And in their office, they would have, the American flag, and maybe they'd have their state flag as well. And yet, more and more, we're seeing other countries' flags in there, which is, I'd argue, ridiculous, because, again, you're elected to fix our country, which, yeah, I don't think they've put our country first in quite some time. You have Mirthral Madras saying, quote, it took a mere 3 presidential terms to destroy the patriotism amongst people who identify as Democrats, getting 21 likes. Jamie Deacons says, quote, 2000, they're not talking about Nintendo, it's just WEEEE. Again, some of this is my speaking ineptitudes. Don't get me wrong, but some of these are just terrible grammar and not real words. Like perhaps they're trying to go Shakespearean up in here, who's famous for making up words, but nevertheless, Shakespeare that is. Jamie says, quote, 2000 Wii's the 9/11 text. We should compare it to 2006, and I bet it's closer to 2025. Some people are miserable all the time. Gain 22 likes. Again, that is something to take into consideration. The United States was, I would argue, extremely unified as well in 2001 era. But again, I don't think that delta would be too much further than what it is if they were to move that polling out to 2026. Let me know in the comments, though, what your thoughts are. Unvarnished tooth, which it literally is an unvarnished tooth in the profile picture. Kind of cute. Perhaps a dentist. They quote, almost 40 trillion in debt, warmongers, Putin allies, R-word in the White House, KGB-style roundups, free fall in education, return to racism. Only real a-hole will be proud of USA at the moment. Getting 264 likes. Showing you mentally vacuous, but again, you got 264 likes for that comment. Funny how he does. And 40 trillion in debt. Again, Democrats they contributed a lot to that, as well as Republicans. I think in terms of the debt, that makes me think my politicians are stupid. It doesn't make me hate my country. And again, it does, and that would make me irate and upset with Democrats and Republicans in D.C. Warmongers, yeah, there's some truth in that. Putin allies, I haven't seen that lately. Free fall education, yeah. Who set up the? Yeah, I was gonna say the Department of Education. Who started that? Who's funded it? $3 trillion just to spend on the Department of Education for year-over-year lower tech scores. R-word in the White House, which again, no actual evidence was shown of that. KGB style roundups. Are you talking about the illegals who broke the law to get here? I mean, they have people who are arrested for making memes. That's kind of what the leftists want. But nevertheless, that got 264 likes and 208 comments. Was he ratioed? John Fetterman parody account responded saying, quote, you keep calling the guy who's trying to change this a fascist, getting 81 likes. I have this very unique profile named Nipple Fight. I know that's a thing. What can't they do? Now, the Nipple Fight says, quote, why don't you just get that out then? Getting 13 likes. You also have AJ Thompson say, quote, if only that were it, but even when your guy was in the White House, you still hated the USA. Indeed, more than ever, your minds are broken beyond repair, getting 8 likes. Which, yeah, you've had different polls in terms of when a person's political party in the White House, do they feel more or less patriotic? It is interesting to see that delta is much greater magnified on the Democrat side of the political aisle. Where again, if they're a person in the White House, then they're more patriotic. But when they're not, they hate the United States. They think it's evil and terrible. But yeah, it's definitely not good that again that number of Democrat side is 36% now, and definitely shows the party's moving away. And it'll be interesting to see how they change their vernacular campaigning tactics or the importation of voter tactics and how they win in the future. But let me know, is something you're concerned about? And do you think our country will ever really be unified again? Let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting cultural news, you have Jaguar sales collapsing by 98%. Now, this brought to us thanks to End Wokeness. And she says, quote, Jaguar sales collapsed by 98%. Turns out this wasn't the greatest rebrand. And, well, we rewatch it again. It's the Bud Light of the automotive industry in terms of advertising. The extremely modern. This is going to take Jaguar into the new era. It starts out with a gal with a fro with a 90-degree angle, just chopped out as if she used a chainsaw to carve her hair. But granted, I don't have much ground to stand on when it comes to having a bare hair day. I know. It says create exuberant. And a Smurf-looking gal. It says live vivid. Delete ordinary. Which is hilarious because they said it's so unique. Some of this actually parallels an Apple advertisement from a couple decades ago. They have what do you call the guys who have no gender? Ishi looking? I forget what they all work. They got lots of flags, lots of terms. But it's a guy who looks very androgynous. That's the word I was looking for. Dressed in a dress with a shoulder. Looks like the shoulder pads of a suit as a collar and wearing a sledgehammer, which I'm actually surprised given the lack of muscle mass that his individual can actually lift up a sledgehammer. Though, again, it might be a prop, merely foam, then painted. It might be Hollywooded up. It says break molds by being the most cliche thing that, well, I would argue this is just a standard fashion show these days. And They sit on a rock. They sit on a rock in the middle of nowhere. There's copy nothing. Jaguar. I guess they're unified in the fact that none of them look strong enough to do a single push-up. And that went pretty viral. That campaign was roasted viscerally. Jaguar said, we're going to go all in on the EVs. And, yeah. Jaguar in general, their sales are already declining. Not as bad as something like, well, geez Louise, like Infinity from Nissan. That's even doing even worse. But, yeah, Jaguar thought it'd be a good idea to go after a new market as they struggle to have any customers at all, as they have one of the most unreliable vehicles on the planet. And then they thought, we'll go all in on the EV. Great for a very niche market. Turned out not so great. Their sales are so low. They actually discontinued. They didn't make any cars this year, or in the past 9 months. They basically took a hiatus, which no company has done, as far as I know, in automotive history without going bankrupt, as they try to retool and reimagine for the new Jaguar, which, again, I would argue Jaguar, well, obviously the best ones, I mean, the E-Type was one of the most beautiful cars in history ever made. I'd argue Jaguar is, supposed to be better than, you're supposed to be, British engineering. Maybe comes with caviar and martini. I'm kind of kidding with that, but I mean, when it comes to Jaguar, they made some cool sports cars throughout the years. But yeah, the EV concepts look terrible. And again, when it comes to having a luxury EV, there's a market for that. I think it's a lot smaller than the manufacturers suspect. But I don't see Jaguar competing in that area that they're trying to compete in. And it's also alienated a lot of the guys who have bought it because it's very effeminate. I mean, a lot of people are saying, all the pronouns in all this video, all that kind of stuff. So they're trying for a new market, but I don't think that market is sustainable or big enough to actually have Jaguar continue. Now, this also went pretty viral, got 3.8 million views, as well as 48,000 likes. And one of the first comments coming to us, thanks to Valentina Gomez, saying, quote, at least they got that part right. Nobody would ever want to copy them, getting 698 likes, which, yeah, no one would. Amuse says, quote, seriously, did they hire the Bud Light marketing gal, Alyssa Heiderchild? Which, that was the marketing gal so mentally vacuous, he decided to alienate the largest percentage of their current customers and go after a very niche market and lost them over $1 billion in sales, and they've never recovered. Yeah, the Bud Light effect, the Alyssa Heiderchild. Insult your customers, go after a new, very niche market. Yeah, it didn't turn out well for Anheuser-Busch InBev. It got 269 likes. Barefoot Pregnant says, quote, abandoning the roar for a whisper. No wonder no one's buying, getting 8 likes. Levercat VDTM says, quote, go woke, go broke, getting 66 likes. Their vehicles themselves also go broke. They are horribly unreliable. And I would argue in terms of, there's usually a trade-off. Some more very sporty cars are not as reliable, but it's kind of a trade-off because there's more horsepower, more wear and tear. There's going to be more maintenance, less. It's not going to be the Toyota Corolla, the best-selling car in history. You're going for the experience. That is, especially with older cars in the 90s, 2000s. There's some areas where, yeah, it's a trade-off, but Jaguar, when it comes to the trade-off of being unreliable and fun, the trade-off is just way too unreliable, not enough fun, especially I would argue for most Jaguars past couple of decades. Paul Zupa says, quote, wokeness doesn't sell, game 47 likes, going up like a stock before our eyes. Ian Miles Chung says, quote, Jaguar hasn't made or released anything this year, so they haven't sold anything. The inventory is empty. All of last year's models were already shipped from inventory last year's. Now, again, that is a good contrarian statement. Because again, they took that hiatus, but again, the dealerships had a fair amount of allocation. They were still selling. So that could be a variable, but again, 98% decrease, that is pretty big. Going down more and more. Yeah, Mike said, quote, basically, you're gay if you own a Jaguar. That's what I've grasped. Getting 2.5 thousand likes. We also have C saying, quote, you're telling me that the demographic of 65-year-old straight white men don't want this? Getting 2.5 thousand likes, which, again, I'm not saying that was predominantly their old demographic, but it was like a very contributing member of the demographic that would currently or previously buy their vehicles. Sports Duh says Jag Bud Lighted itself. There's a picture of the Bud Light logo with the Jaguar on top, getting 103 likes. The Joe says no chance I'm buying a Jaguar after this trash, getting 227 likes. Which again, well, even the modern ones I wasn't a fan of because again they had gas options and a coupe sports car, but geez Louise, I think it started at about 80,000, goes up 120,000. You don't even have a third pedal. It's all automatic. It looks okay, but it's not compelling or unique enough of an experience for most people to actually want a justification to buy it, I would argue. Going down more and more. My own Winters simply has a screenshot. It says, it's been photoshopped, so it says sell nothing, getting 156 likes. But again, Jaguar is also pivoting to go all in on the EVs. Again, I don't think it's sustainable as a business model. I don't think they'll make enough money off EVs. I suspect they'll have one really bad year of EV sales attempts, and then they'll fall back on their previous, more successful cars. But I don't know if they'll get sold again, or then, another bailout. But let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Going over to the political part podcast, you have Elizabeth Warren irate that illegals might not get free healthcare. This brought to us thanks to Libs of TikTok, in which she says, quote, Elizabeth Warren is on the verge of tears because Republicans want to take away taxpayer-funded healthcare from criminal illegal aliens and foreign terrorists who invade our country and broke our laws. Find someone who loves you as much as a Democrat loves foreign criminals. Here's Pocahontas looking slightly more decrepit than usual, wearing a sweatshirt. You're on camera. You're a politician. Half your job is optics. Really? Just hanging out in your fancy automobile wearing a sweater? All right. Let's hear, although maybe Elizabeth Warren gives some very coherent reasons as to why people should get free stuff who broke into our country, while Americans are, some of them starving, some of them have no insurance at all, some of them can't get medical attention. Yeah, obviously she won't give us any good reasons, but let's hear what she has to say. Might be, I'm sorry, I should put a visual disclaimer. Her face is on the screen, so if you're watching on Rumble or YouTube, you see Elizabeth Warren as well as my face, which, yeah, is a sight for sore eyes, but without too much further ado.
Leaving the Senate now. At the end of the vote, when the Republicans won, they cheered. They cheered over taking away health care from around 17 million people. They cheered over giving huge tax breaks.
Shouldn't you be more concerned there are 17 million people here illegally? Which, again, how many of those could be horrific criminals as well? I mean, they're all criminals because they broke in the country to get here. Again, just from a national security perspective, wouldn't you be also be worried 17 million people are here, you have no idea who the heck they are and what they're doing? But of course, that is not her point of concern. I'll rewind it for a second.
Over giving huge tax breaks to a handful of billionaires. They cheered over running up the national debt by another $3.5 trillion. This bill, it's bad. It's bad economically. It's bad morally.
That's the first time I ever heard her say, oh yeah, it's bad for the economy. Huh. When your party was in office, you're printing money too. Again, I'm not a fan of the big, beautiful bill increased the deficit. They also got rid of the pro-gun stuff. I'm pretty irate about that. But yeah, I love how they pretend. And again, politicians left and right should care about the $37 trillion in debt. But yeah, don't give me this fake, oh yeah, now I care about the fight. No, you don't. Again, Republicans do this as well.
This bill is just wrong.
Wrong.
But we stay in the fight. We stay in the fight. We stay in the fight. And we proved why we stay in the fight. Because actually, there are pieces of this bill that we got better. We got the tax on solar and wind knocked out. And that's going to help with clean energy. We got a few different pieces and made them better. So that's reason number one. Is always the reminder. All of those calls matter.
This is also omnibus bill, which I'm not a fan of. Because again, they all do this. So Democrats got stuff they like. The Jaguars got... Again, they should be made illegal in terms of omnibus bills. Yeah, basically everyone gets one thing that they like. Then they go back to their constituents and go, oh yeah, I know you didn't like the other stuff, but I got us to have one thing, so re-elect me. I think it's lazy and they're abdicating their responsibility by having these big omnibus bills. And again, Democrats and Republicans both do it.
Reason number two is it's still not over. The bill has now got to go back over to the House. And there are a lot of Republicans who are feeling really squeamish about this bill at this point.
Are they?
So that means we got to stay in the fight. And reason number three.
She can count to three?
They may do this.
I'm sorry. I'm pretty impressed. I didn't know she could do that.
They may do this now. But come November 2026, they're going to have to face the voters. They're going to have to face the people, the families of the people whose health care they took away.
Wait, so are you admitting that people are illegally voting? You said that didn't happen, Elizabeth Warren. Your party said that never happens.
And they're going to have to explain exactly what they just did just now on the floor.
Or as Trump would say, they're going to vote for me that much harder, folks. They're going to vote for me hard. They're going to click that button. They're going to check that box so hard. I mean, I don't think Trump said that precisely, but probably.
Floor of the United States Senate and whatever they do next. So this is hard, but damn, we stay in the fight. We stay in it, not because it's an easy fight, not because we're guaranteed to win every time. We stay in it because it's the right fight.
Or it's because you make money hand over fist being a politician. I love how all these politicians are like, we got to fight the good fight when Many of them, I would argue, are self-serving. Again, Democrats and Republicans, and they all make so much money to do so little. They basically vote a couple times a year on these big omnibus bills. Okay, I can't imagine getting paid six figures to be a politician. Yeah, they got pensions, they got health care, and a lot of them will just vote, oh yeah, president, but not doing a vote. That's not a big thing that they do. Ridiculous. This show, I don't know why this didn't go more viral. It got about 113,000 views. Oh, it's got 4.1 thousand likes. One of the first comments comes to us thanks to Planet of Memes. A little disappointed. Did not actually respond to meme, just like text on paper. He has the question mark looking emoji or the questioning looking emoji. This alleged Planet of Memes, or memes, I should say allegedly, because I haven't seen them with a meme in a little while. He says, quote, wouldn't it be great if Democrats fought for Americans as much as they fought for illegal immigrants? Getting 92, making 93 likes. That would be nice, but I don't think that. Again, Democrats have changed a lot past 30 years, and Republicans, well, what's the age-old saying? Democrats are running off a cliff, and Republicans are just walking there. You also have Paul Zupa saying, quote, haha, exactly. Warren loves criminals more than she loves innocent Americans. She's a traitor, getting 63 likes. Lori Ann says, quote, there's nothing more evil than a Democrat woman in Congress getting 88 likes. K9 Tracker says, this is all she is crying about. There's a picture of Democrats crying, holding up a poster board says, give us our kickbacks, getting 21 likes. David Santa Clara says, quote, taking healthcare away from illegals is the most base thing Republicans have done in a century, getting 35 likes. Yes, but that is also a very low bar in terms of like all the accomplishments. Again, I appreciate when they do some good things. Can't but think you probably fit a lot of those things in a cocktail napkin, which is kind of funny because a cocktail napkin is actually spawned a real napkin. I also think napkins are a ripoff. I've never bought them personally, but yeah, they're just small paper towels. But ADHD aside, you also have Poetic Marvel. Now he says, quote, why are the Democrats so in love with criminals? Oh yeah, they're voters, getting 23 likes. Jared Marsh actually has a meme. Says, quote, I just bought a new Jeep. I named it Elizabeth Warren because it's white, but it says it's Cherokee. Getting 19 likes. I should get more than that. Come on now. That's hilarious. Remember Elizabeth Warren actually lied about her ethnicity so she gets get a nice break to get into college, get a nice scholarship and preferential treatment to get admitted. Then later she goes, oh yeah, after the DNA test, he said, oh yeah, whoops, like 1%. Which Trump obviously, I think I actually offered her $1 million for the charity of her choice. She actually took the test, and it was like 1% result. She's Native American. Like Trump's like, oh no, I can no longer call her Pocahontas. You also have Maria Isabella saying, quote, fine, we'll deport every single last one of them. They say, quote, I can't speak today. It's needs more caffeine or less caffeine. I can never tell. It says, fire the paramilitarian Elizabeth McDowell. No one wants to pay for 1.4 million illegals to have Medicare gain 4 legs. We have David Sullivan back in the comment section. Haven't seen him in a couple weeks. And again, his program islands are prosecute Fauci. Now he says, quote, all to line her and her donors' pockets. And it's an AI-generated picture from Grok with her holding a poster board. It says, quote, if we keep taking away kings or talking about kings and billionaires, people will find out who stole the tax dollars, getting 5 likes. Let's see. You also have Mega Gay saying, quote, it's scary how much these people value literally everyone except their own actual legal constituents. Then wonder why they're losing voters, getting 10 likes. Someone by name of DS Dalla has a AI-generated picture of Elizabeth Warren dressed up as Pocahontas, as this quote, and she has a poster board saying, quote, Democrats destroy everything Democrats destroy everything with lies, corruption, division, and hate, getting 11 likes. And, trying to see. Yeah, not too many contrarian statements here. It is fascinating, almost impressive that, again, she seems to just keeps voted in no matter what, time and time again. I guess, that takes some talent or, well, lots of donation dollars. But let me know, are you surprised Elizabeth Warren is irate about this? And actually, what do you think? Do you think the average American thinks their taxpayers should be paying for healthcare for illegals? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting political news, you have Donald Trump saying he will arrest Zohran if he dares block ICE. This brought to us thanks to End Wokeness. And this is in regard to now, it's actually the Democrat primary winner, Mr. Zohran Madiami, which I'm probably butchering his name, but he's a self-proclaimed socialist who actually wants to ban guns. He also wants to have government-owned stores, government-owned housing. He basically wants to kill the whole private sector. Again, self-proclaimed socialist, Mr. Zohran. And again, because he won the Democrat primary and because Democrats outnumber Republicans 2-1 in New York City, there's a high propensity he's going to win in November. Now, this is brought to us, again, thanks to End Wokeness. And it's about 30 seconds long, so without too much further ado.
Mr. President, your beloved New York City may well be led by a communist soon, Zohran Mandami, who in his nomination speech said he will defy ICE and will not allow ICE to arrest criminal aliens in New York City. Your message to communist Zohran Mandami?
Well, then we'll have to arrest him.
That's the fun video editing. Added a boss chain onto Donald Trump, sunglasses, and a hat that says Gulf of America. I'm sorry. Gulf of America. We're going to deport his ass back to Uganda. Send him where he's from. Nobody wants his socialist policies here. Now, that went pretty viral. Got 594,000 views and 43,000 likes. With one of the first comments coming to us, thanks to America Pup Bear saying, quote, "He should be barred from holding office for being an open communist," getting 182 likes. Paul Zupa says, quote, "The law is the law," getting 38 likes. Michael Scott says, quote, "He can't and he won't. Madami is the new king of New York," getting 42 likes. Atticus Fitch says, quote, "This isn't a reporter talking, it's a government propagandist," getting 15 likes. The Last True Roman says, quote, "Incredible, Madami should absolutely be in jail. He's a terrorist supporter," getting 535 likes. 37 likes. 38 likes. 37 likes. 38. I'm kidding. I'll stop liking and unliking it. Now, Yeti says, quote, "Going to get real entertaining to watch Trump own this fool repeatedly," getting 165 likes. Going down more and more, you have No Quarter Memes, or memes as I call them because it's funnier that way. Says Zohran isn't even American. It's I forget which Rambo movie this is. There's so many of them, it's hard to keep track. But it's Rambo or, Sylvester Stallone standing behind the enemy, and the enemy is called Zohran, and Americans, or Sylvester Stallone, Rambo is called, or named Americans. Getting 143 likes. See, David Santa Clara also has a picture of American Psycho, screenshot from the movie. It says, quote, "Hang on a sec. That's a base department to calling," getting 156 likes. Molly Picture says, quote, referring to Zohran, and actually an article from Breitbart. Now she says, quote, "This dude is a communist. He needs to be deported." And the article from Breitbart says, Zohran Mardiabi, end goal, seizing the means of production, getting 74 likes. Bay says, end deport, getting 131 likes. Going down more and more. Not seeing any contrarian statements thus far. MAGA Gay says, quote, "Isn't this grounds for deportation if you lie about being a commie?" getting 15 likes. Geo says, quote, "Not letting ICE agents arrest illegals is the same as not letting the police arrest criminals," getting 58 likes. Which it is, yet there are a lot of places that brag about being sanctuary shitties and sanctuary states. You also have Bull Moose American says, quote, "All participants in this blatant attack against our nation by the communist enemies within should be prosecuted for treason, plain and simple," getting 16 likes. Steven, given pretty viral, getting 148 likes for this comment, says, quote, "For anyone saying people only hate him for being a Muslim, let it be known I don't care what religion he is. I hate him for being a low IQ communist," getting 149 likes. Although a little redundant because he says low IQ communist, almost like a double negative. It's like, well, yeah, no, he's low IQ, he's a communist. So, Mr. Pitbull, don't suspect it's the singer unless he has a disproportionate amount of time in his hands to tweet. Now, this alleged Mr. Pitbull says, quote, "Blocking ICE is a federal crime, and the perps should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law," getting 18 likes. Scrolling down more and more. Accent Buffalo says, quote, "Trump isn't screwing around today. He must be extremely inspired by the Gators," getting 12 likes. So it'll be interesting to see what happens since Mr. Zohran, and I was going to say, his high propensity is going to win. But let me know, do you think he's going to actually win over November? And then, again, a lot of politicians are pretty bombastic during the campaign trail. They say things, then maybe they don't really do them, especially, it's especially a thing on the right side of the aisle. But let me know, do you think if he does get elected, how many of these radical policies will he try and enact? Let me know in the comments, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the business blunder of the day of BMW recalling some of their EVs because they might, just shut off. Now, this is brought to us thanks to Brian Hurd at thedrive.com. And I'm sorry, I should put a visual disclaimer over here. You're about to see an electric BMW, which, oh God, why would they do that? It's so sad. Now, again, you're going to see this. Oh, okay. Now, it says, quote, "BMW recalls a vast swath of its current EVs to address sudden power loss. A software glitch in 71,000 of BMW's newer EVs can cause their drivetrain motors to shut off unexpectedly." Which, yeah, this is a kind of a big issue when you're trying to drive one of these things that just shuts off. Now, there are some things on BMW that could break and no one would ever know. For example, if the turn signals were to be defective or if the light bulb burned out or didn't work, it could probably be 20 years and no one ever actually realized it. Because again, BMW, let's be honest, about 6.9% of BMW drivers use their turn signals. Not a real statistic. Now, diving into the substance of the article, they say, quote, BMW is recalling vehicles across the entire lineup of its current EVs. Oh my gosh. In order to address a software glitch that can cause the drive motors to shut off unexpectedly, the company's recall notification emphasized the fact that the glitch only impacts the drive motor itself, leaving the car's braking and steering system operational despite the loss of power. Which, I guess that's better. It's better than it could. It's not the worst thing that could happen, I suppose. It's got some things that work in it. They say the recall campaign covers 2022 to 2024 BMW i4, 2025 i4, who's naming these things? The i4 eDrive 35, the eDrive 40, the 2025 i5, 2023 to 2024 i7, the 2022 to 2024 iX. Altogether, the pool comprises nearly 71,000 sedans and SUVs. After identifying approximately 40 potential issues via previous warranty claims, BMW says the likely number of EVs on the road exhibiting this fault is less than 1%. A BMW recall notice says, quote, in certain, I was going to say, I'm sorry, I'll put another BMW on the screen. Ugh, a disgusting looking EV. What color is that? Bronze? At least the paint is interesting, though I guess not in a good way. Now, again, BMW recall notice says, quote, in certain vehicle production configurations, the software may erroneously detect a double isolation condition. As a fail-safe measure, this will cause a shutoff of the main voltage system approximately 15 to 20 seconds after a warning message is displayed. And they also say that, again, power-assisted steering and braking is not affected. BMW says that it was first alerted on the issue in 2021, but instances were so rare that its engineers were unable to isolate the cause. After more examples were accumulated, BMW traced the issue to a fail-safe measure designed to protect against potential electrical shorts originating from a high-voltage system. The sort of gremlin that can cause damage to major components, injure occupants, or even start a fire. Per BMW chronology, the failsafe was likely being triggered by a phantom electrical fault. While the company did not positively identify their source, the new software's failsafe mode should not trigger at random, which, yeah, that's pretty crazy. But again, it's a BMW. I'm not surprised there's issues. And now they're trying to put out a lot of EVs. Yeah, software's, you don't realize how radically different an EV is from a traditional combustion engine, with these companies going from auto companies to more tech companies, and Lord knows how complex software can be in terms of writing, maintaining, and patching. It'll be interesting to see how many more recalls they have with BMW. And again, thankfully, the guy had a situation. There's no reports of any deaths or any major injuries from this. So again, the guy, had the issue. But yeah, BMW having a car that could suddenly just shut off. Gotta say, you are certainly the business blunder of the day. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Again, trying to get to 6,000 subscribers by the end of the month. So if you can click that button, I greatly appreciate it. Also, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or comment. It's a great way to give me some additional feedback, letting me know how I can make the show better and better. And lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.